over the last couple of years, God's been blessing our church. He has. He's been blessing our church in a lot of ways, and especially in our growth. Last year we averaged like 212, and now we're averaging 250. Okay, so God's been blessing us with a lot of growth, and we have an active youth ministry. We have an active children's ministry. We're seeing a lot of families coming, and we look at our worship service, and it seems like a lot of Sundays, God has just been blessing that more and more. Some of you have even had to move seats. I know that that's a very difficult thing, but I'm so proud of you. And there are times that I'm looking around and I'm like, okay, they weren't here today, and you were here. And so if I've said I missed you this Sunday and you were like, I was there, it's because you moved seats. And that comes from growth as a church. And I believe God's hand is on our church. I believe God's hand is on our church, and we never want to get in the way of what God is doing. We never want to get in the way of our church continuing to grow. And with growth comes some complications, comes some things. There comes a point where you look and you're like, are we struggling with space? I told this a while back that once we get to a certain point, we have to really be seeking the Lord for what He wants. I don't know if you've ever heard of an 80% rule. Once you get to 80% full, people stop coming. They just simply stop coming because they're too cramped. There's not enough room. They have to move seats. That 80% rule for us is 240. And this year we've been averaging 250. There have been times that we've been over that. A lot of times that we're at that point. So which leads to this question is what's next? What's next for our church? How can we adapt to the growth of our church? Because we're not going to stop growing. Not with God's hands on us. What's next for us? Really, as a staff, as elders, as deacons, we've been praying about this for a long time, probably about a year. Okay, this growth has not been something that has just jumped up on us. It's not been a time where like, oh my gosh, we didn't see this coming. We saw this coming a long time ago, and we've been praying for a really, really long time. What do we do when we get so cramped that people stop coming because they can't find seats or they can't find seats together for their family? What do we do? And we've been praying for this again for a long time. And we don't want that to happen. So many have asked us a lot of questions. You've asked us this question. I know you've asked a lot of deacons and some elders. You've asked the question, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? What are we going to do when this happens? What are we going to do when we have 358 on Easter and we use the upstairs and we used an overflow room? What are we going to do as we grow? And you've asked a lot of those questions, and we've heard you, and we've been praying through those, and we want to get your input on how to answer those questions. A church grows by three different things. Okay, a church grows by its worship service. And we have a great worship leader. The preaching, the worship is really, there's too many amens for that, okay? All right? So the church grows by three things: their worship service, their children's ministry, and their discipleship. Okay? Right now, we're struggling in all three of those from a space standpoint. If everybody who comes that watches online every Sunday, we'd continue to struggle. So we're maxed out of space on all three of those. And as the church continues to grow, we have to make decisions. We just have to make decisions like any other business would, or we have to make decisions. What are we going to do? And really, obedience to God is the only decision. It's the only answer, is for us as a church to be obedient to God and what He would have for Upper Deer Creek Church. We want to be obedient to that. So what's God telling us? What's he telling us? Well, he's telling us this, is we really can't add any more Sunday school classes because we don't have any. We don't have any more classes. We really can't grow in discipleship because we don't have any room to do it. All of our classes are full unless the big class wants to go down into the basement, and y'all spent too many years down there that you've gotten out of the dungeon. I mean basement. And so we're struggling for discipleship. We're at that 30 to 40% of people who come to a service that come to Sunday school. 30 to 40%. That's it. And so if we were to add just 30 more people total, we'd be in big trouble. So discipleship is hurting in that, and from that space of not having that. We've had people tell us, we don't know if we're going to come to Upper Deer Creek Church anymore because we can't find a seat, so we may go to another church. We don't like to hear that. That's a struggle that they're, and here's why, is because they're too cramped. We don't have enough leg room. Sorry, Jonathan, what you get for being tall. We don't have enough leg room. We don't like to be this close to somebody. And so therefore, we don't know that we want to come to Upper Deer Creek Church anymore. That's their only reason. That's a concern. There's no room for growth with our children, our kids, our youth. And these things, they have to be addressed. They have to be addressed. Just like you would in any business, they have to be addressed. So we want to keep growing. That's God's call on every single church, is to continue to grow. If a church doesn't want to grow, then they're being a very disobedient church, and God will remove his hand from that church. I don't want to be that church. That's not who Upper Deer Creek Church is going to be. We don't want to get to the point where we say, we don't want to grow anymore, because that means that we don't want God to move. And so we're at that point of, what do we do, God? How do we continue to do what he wants us to do? So the question is this, okay? How can we really look at our physical building and find more room for growth? Okay? How can we look at what we have now and find more room for growth? That's the question that I want to ask you. And so today, that's why I'm standing up here. That's what these guys are standing up here. We want to ask you, we need your input. We need your advice. We need your wisdom. We need your thoughts. With our physical building, how can we grow? What do we need to do to continue to have room for growth? Because as a staff, elders, deacons, we've all met, we've talked about this, and we're all in 100% agreement that something has to happen. Something has to happen. And our thing is, how do we figure out what that is? Because we can put a lot of minds together, and a lot of really great minds. Well, a lot of great minds. But the thing is we need your help. Because as much as we can think, God may be speaking something else. And so we need your input. So we're asking you to pray about this, to seek the Lord for this, and a solution. What is a solution to our growth? Because we don't ever want to stop growing. So what is a solution to that? That's what I'm asking for you today, is pray and say, God, give me an idea, give me a thought on how as a church we can continue to grow and still address some of these issues. So we have a place that you can go to. You can go to our website, and you can click on a link there that will take you to the question that I'm asking. As we grow, how do we, in our physical building, how can we meet the needs of our current problems with growth and our future problems with growth? So that's a question I'm asking you to pray about. And then if God lays something on your heart over this week, go to our website and click on that and type it out, okay? Because if you're just going to tell us, we're probably going to forget. So I'm asking that if that you pray about and you seek the Lord about, Mark, here's an idea. Here's some things that we're seeing that we really need. These are some struggles within our physical building. These are some things that we can need to do to help in that. I'm asking you not to just to come up and talk to me about it. I'm telling you, oh, you can do that, but I'm asking you to please go to our website and type that out. And that will be emailed directly to me. And at the end of this week, we'll get together and we're going to compile all of those things of thoughts and ideas and try and get all of those together. And then next Sunday, after church, kind of present those to you. Hey, this is what this church has come up with over this week of seeking the Lord. Now, we've been doing this for a year, and we've been seeking the Lord for what he would have and praying about this for a long time, what God's direction is, and we've decided now is the time to address some of those concerns. And so this is why we're asking of you. We're not asking for you to go to our website and type out complaints. Okay, the pastor's too short. He preaches too long. He's not a good leader. We're not asking for complaints. Okay, we're asking for input from our physical building. How can we take our physical building and meet the needs of our growth? And so we're asking for you to help us on those concerns. And understand this, we don't want to be a mega church. That's not our goal. That's not our desire. Our goal and our desire from our leadership standpoint is to stay in one service. We don't want two services. We'd rather just have one service. And so we're that leads to really trying to figure out things because we don't want to change our identity. We know who we are. We don't want to be anybody else. We want to be Upper Deer Creek Church. We want to be a family-oriented church. That's what we want. That's our heart's desire. And so we're just asking you, can you help us? Can you help us with some of these things to maybe give us some direction, some ideas? Because as we grow, change must happen. It does. As we grow, change must happen. And it's not up to us, it's up to God and what he would have for us. And so I'm going to ask you this week just to pray. Pray for what our church and the direction God needs to take from a physical building. How do we make room for our current growth and future growth? And so that's what we're asking for you is just input, ideas. Be seeking the Lord this week. And again, go to our website and type in your answer. Here are my suggestions. Here are the ideas that God has laid on my heart, maybe for this church. Okay? And so that's what we're asking as a leadership before, because we want to explore all of our options. We just do. We want to explore them all. And so I wanted to share that with you guys today, and just to be praying for our church with what God would have for us as Upper Deer Creek Church, and just seeking the Lord, because we are growing, and God's blessing, and we'll continue to bless. And so that's the challenge for you all this week, is just to really seek the Lord for what he would have for Upper Deer Creek Church. And we'll share those this next Sunday right after church, kind of what, as a church, you guys have come up with idea-wise.